Well, we're back with you here on the Market Day Report. It's a Monday, and we're getting the trade opened up here on the futures market in Chicago. We'll bring in a little extra help to help analyze everything. Let's go to the phones and welcome none other than Mr. Dewey Strickler. He is with AgWatch Market Advisors. He's based in Franklin, Kentucky. Always good to visit with you, Dewey, about the markets. And as we get things rolling, let's take a look at our current corn and soybean and wheat trade as it stands right now. And we'll take a look, first of all, at the corn market. We did trade everything a little higher overnight, at least on the corn and beans. Right now, we have the corn really starting to surge here this morning. All of a sudden, they're taking the spurs to it here. March now up 8 3/4 cents at 3.56 even. We have the May contract 8.5 higher at 3.62 3/4 per bushel. How about that? Now, overnight, we had the soybean trade in the early morning hours trading about 12 cents higher. In the early overnight hours, it was only 2 or 3 higher, but let's take a look at the soybean market and see how it's doing now. My goodness, January soybeans up 18.5 at 10.46 even per bushel. We have the March up 18.25 at 10.55.5. And that's basically about a penny off of its high of the trade so far. All right, Dewey, let's start with the corn and soybeans here. What is going on to really drive the markets higher like we're seeing early today?
Well, there are a couple of things. One, the dollar's lower, but I don't think that's making that much of a difference. Beans are supporting the corn and the wheat. You had palm oil values were higher overnight, and this has led to more strength in the beans. But you got some warning signals out here. I would say buyer beware in the beans right here. We had last week the funds added 130 million bushel to the long position in beans. They got it up to 675, and I looked at the Commitment of Traders report, and we're looking at the index funds have their biggest position since July 2012. And if you guys remember back then when beans were up there right around 17.95, they had a position about this same size. Guess what happened? We lost about 25%.
Well, you know, we did have that sale announced overnight from USDA where we did sell just under 500,000 tons of soybeans to China. They reported 426,000 tons of soybeans sold for the current marketing year, and that all went to China. But, you know, we haven't heard much of that this past week, have we?
No, we haven't. Actually, when you look back at our export numbers, the China sales, they peaked a few weeks ago, and we're down about 25% from the peak there. So China has already turned their attention towards South America.
So do you think that's what's happening, or do you think they're just being timid ahead of the change in the administration here next year?
Maybe a little bit of both.
All right. What do you make of this wheat market? Let's take a look over here in Chicago wheat. Right now, we'll start with that March contract. 5 1/4 higher at 409.5. We're almost on the high of the day now so far. On Kansas City wheat, we have the March contract currently trading at 411. That's 2 1/4 cents higher per bushel. And just one tick off of its high of the day, by the way. Minneapolis wheat on the March contract, we're now a penny lower at 537.5. That spread seems to be unwinding even a little more. But in the wheat, is it just following the others right now?
I think it's following the corn and beans to a big extent, but now we do have some cold temperatures, rather frigid weather in the forecast here later this week, which I think is giving a little bit of help to wheat.
Okay, I want to take a look at our cotton market in the early going here. How is it starting out this morning? Well, pretty positive, actually. March now up 58 points at 71.62 per pound, so it's getting up there closer to 72 cents once again. All right, Dewey, we'll pause for a break. We'll come back and see how the livestock market is holding up in the early going on a Monday right after this. Well, we're talking with Dewey Strickler of AgWatch Market Advisors, and I wanted to take a quick peek here at some of the outside markets like our dollar and our crude oil market. He mentioned the dollar value briefly earlier, and the dollar has been sagging this morning. Let's take a look at the U.S. dollar futures on the index. Right now, we have the March down 350 points at 100.410 this morning, and has been getting weaker in the knees. However, at times the stock markets have been gaining. Dewey, we had news over the weekend where they had a vote in Italy, and apparently it was a referendum vote on a change to their constitution, and they pretty soundly defeated that measure. That on the surface appears that that would be supportive of, kind of in that vein of thinking of the Brexit vote in Britain. It's not the same thing, but their prime minister has already said he's going to be resigning today on account of that. Will that be sending ripple effects through anything outside of the financial markets? Could it impact the ag commodity trade at all?
I doubt that it had very much impact on it here. Europe they've had problems for years. They're going to continue to have problems here. The thing what you want to be focused on is the dollar. The dollar's taken a little bit of a dip, but I have said for many, many months that the dollar's probably going up to 104 to 105. We're going to put in an important top. The thing concerns me is what's going to cause us to top.
Okay, quick peek at our crude oil market as well here this morning in the early going. We do have a firmer trade. January West Texas crude is now 46 cents higher at 52.14 per barrel. Let's go ahead and see how the livestock trade is holding up. Now, we had the cash cattle trade kind of back up a little bit on Friday afternoon from the highs that we had earlier in the week on Wednesday. Right now, the live cattle market opening just a little bit weaker. Of course, we had a very sour close on Friday afternoon. We have February live cattle currently down 26 cents. It's trading at 108.62 per hundredweight. April down 20 cents at 108.85 per hundred. On the feeder cattle side, here we have the January contract just down 8 cents right now at 124.52. And you have the March is currently trading 27 lower at 121.25. So the trading range here has been just a little over $1 in the early going, but we're about right in the middle of it right now. This market seems like for the time being, maybe it has stabilized a little bit here.
Yeah, it has. We're trying to make a little bit of an upside reversal in our February contract of cattle here this morning. The thing we're going to be bumping heads with, and that is we're looking at production up in November, and we do have a pretty big supply of pork and poultry. If we do come down and, let's say, take out this morning's low, then I could see the cattle market dropping back to probably about, let's say the 107, maybe 106.5 area.
Okay, let's see how the lean hogs are opening up this morning. We'll switch over there. We have the February contract now at 54.68 per hundredweight. Now we're up 66 cents. April 67 higher at 60.82 per hundredweight. That's on the high of the morning so far, and that was a weaker close too on Friday.
Yeah, we got a little bit of a dead cat bounce going on the hogs here. So far, the setback that we've got from last week's high looks to be like a correction. I don't think it's done. I think we're going to have to contend with some seasonal weakness here till about mid-December, and got some slowing concerns about exports slowing here. You could see the hog market probably drop back to about 52.5 basis Fed.
Dewey, thanks as always. Good to visit with you again. Appreciate it, sir.
Glad to do so.
Dewey Strickler, he's with AgWatch Market Advisors in Franklin, Kentucky, if you want to look him up. So we're getting things off to a little steady start kind of on the cattle, a little bit weaker, but the grain markets, that's one to watch now today. Look at the soybeans go. How about that?
Monday's getting started on a rockin' start.
It is, yeah, something for everybody again.
Thank you, Marlon.